Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our monthly webinar. Today's topic is the key to a snow-free driveway is installing a snow melt system. My name is Anatoly. I'm with WarmlyYours Tech Support, and I will have Lynn present herself.
Hi, my name is Lynn, and I am a customer service rep here at WarmlyYours.
Thank you very much, Lynn. And I will go right away to my second slide here. So webinar is all about us presenting the information that we really want to share, but of course we are super open to all of you asking us the questions. And that's where you can easily do that if you're watching us on the Crowdcast platform. Just go to Ask a Question button at the bottom, type your question, and that's going to be simple and easy to get those questions sent out to us. Or you can simply utilize that chat area on the right side of your screen and just chat your question in. We'll see that right away on the side and start answering that maybe on that particular slide we are in, or just when particular topic or part of the presentation goes related to that question. So knowing all that, I will hand it over to Lynn to start with our outline.
Sure, so today's webinar obviously is about our snow melting systems. So we're going to go over the system itself and what it's comprised of, and then we're going to show you an example project that someone recently installed and was kind enough to send us pictures of. So we'll walk you through that and all the installation steps that went into it, and then we'll also touch on all of our control options as well. So jumping right into our snow melting systems, these are designed to be embedded in concrete, asphalt, or the mortar or sand under pavers. They really evenly heat the surface of the driveway or whatever you're planning on installing it in, so it'll actually melt that snow and the ice so that you end up getting a very clean, snow-free area. They can be designed to turn on automatically when the temperature is low enough and there is precipitation, or you can use a control where you manually turn it on and off. And we have two different options available. We have our snow melting cable or our snow melting mat, which is basically just that cable on a mesh that is able to just be rolled out and cut and turned.
Great, thank you very much, Lynn. And I'll probably just quickly add here, quite a common question we are getting here in tech support is kind of what's the difference between cable and mat, or when should I use the cable versus mat? So technically speaking, the loose cable that you're seeing on the screen, it's really the same heating element that is already pre-spaced and pre-attached in the snow melting mat at the bottom of the screen. So eventually larger rectangular areas would be quick and easy to work with the snow melting mat, because you can unroll that and get your large area covered pretty quick and easy. Snow melt cable would be a good product to use on anything like stairs or any kind of odd shape, maybe walkways or sidewalks. Anything that would have some diagonal sides or just simply curved walkway. That's where, again, you're getting more flexibility using the cable and making sure that your area is nicely covered. So going into the next slide, eventually, like Lynn said, we will be talking about a specific project example here. And actually, this first shot is already from the project that was done here nearby recently. And your general approach to installing a snow melt in the asphalt would be to have the heating mat embedded between the two layers of asphalt to give that efficient melting, to give that efficient heat transfer to the top surface. And we want the system, the snow melting mat, of course, to be installed where you have 2 inches of asphalt on top, 2 inches of asphalt at the bottom, pretty much getting that middle position, which we're going to show right here in the next slide, where we showcasing the asphalt cross-section for snow melting. So, of course, all starts with a compacted gravel, 4 to 12 inches or whatever is really needed for this particular type of application. Then the base coat of asphalt will go down first, should be a minimum 2 inches, typically would be 2 to 3 inches or so. After this one is done, that's where you eventually going to plan to install the snow melting mat according to the plan layout. And again, we're going to cover all of those details later. And of course, after the mats are finally installed and all secured, then the final finished layer of asphalt will go down. Again, typically 2 inches, could be 2 to 3 inches of that finished asphalt. So let's roll in with that project example, Lynn.
Yeah, absolutely. So this project obviously again was for a heated asphalt driveway, so we can actually show you exactly which products our customers use and how it was all laid out. So as you can see, they did use that snow melting mat. They did do a 240 volt mat. We offer 120 or 240 volt in those snow melting mats. And then obviously this is just the project overview, which is something that we will send you when you are looking at getting a quote and a smart plan. We'll send you all of the power requirements for that specific plan, as well as the dimensions and the operating costs. So for this project, they were heating it was a total area of 488 square feet, and they ended up heating most of that. They heated about 469 square feet of that space. And then the total wattage was just a little over 21,000 watts, and the amperage was 88.55. So there were quite a few breakers that were required because it was a very large space to heat. The operating cost, however, still was very low because these are just incredibly efficient systems. So for an hour of heating, it cost them about $2.13, or if you were heating it, so roughly 8 hours, if you had a 8-hour snowfall or something of the sort, then you'd be looking at about heating it completely for $17.
Great. So super great information for anyone who's just planning to do the area just like that, or rough square footage like that. Gives you a good ballpark of kind of what the electrical requirements are for the system. We had a question from Fran sent out ahead of time, and kind of that question pairs up nicely with that slide. So the question was about electrical needs or power amounts. So eventually, if your area is 488 square feet, or 69 square feet to be exact, these are already your numbers. If you want to just get your electrical figured out for the any custom area that you're planning to do, you can just head out to our quote builder tool. That will tell you what first of all products to use based on the area or square footage that you're doing, and it will give you all the electrical overview. In addition to that, you can also use our calculator cost. Sorry, I'm not saying that's right. It's operating cost calculator, and that's where you simply enter in your square footage, and the system going to calculate how much it's going to cost to operate the system like that, or the system of any square footage. And the last thing I should probably say, the simple, easy way to, of course, do the calculation would be to simply multiply your square footage by 50 watts per square foot. So our systems, especially the snow melting mats, they deliver 50 watts per square foot. So, if you know your area is about 100 square feet, you multiplying that by 50, getting your number for total wattage, and that's typically what an electrician would need to get the rest of the numbers figured out. So again, great question, Fran. Thank you, and we hope that answers that. And again, you can definitely double check those additional tools that are live on our website. So let's go on into the next slide here, and that's of course our smart plan. So this is something that we always provide with every single project. We call it SmartPlan because it's more than a plan. It's your layout, it's your electrical configuration, it's your locations for the junction boxes. On this particular slide, we just showing you really a main part of the layout, but every SmartPlan comes with the kind of footer table there that even shows you more information like electrical and cost and controllers that you're using. So it really gives you lots of information, and especially critical for installer who's on site, who's doing the actual installation and need to do everything correctly. So on the smart plan, again, lots of information, but we need to use it efficiently. So on the smart plan, of course, we showed the configuration and all the mats that needs to be installed. So let's make it simple and start with the mat number 1 that is shown kind of right in the middle here, the kind of pink color mat. This is the mat that is 2 feet by 20 feet, and because our driveway is just 20 feet wide, this is where you can see this mat just fits perfectly, starts where the triangle is and just runs all the way to the end where the square is, and that's your simple mat layout. Really nothing complicated. So going kind of one step further here, mats number 6 and 7 are the mats that are 40 feet long. So those mats will need to go 20 feet up, make a turn, and when we're talking about the turn, actually this is a great example on the left here. When you're making a turn, you're just cutting the mesh, you're not cutting the wire, and sort of turning that mat 180 degree, or like just simple U-turn, and running the rest 20 feet all the way down where the square is, and that's where it ends. So eventually this technique we apply to mats number 6 and 7. Then again, mats number 4 and 5 are pretty simple. Actually, mats number 2, 4, and 5 are simple and easy. You start at the bottom, just run it straight up, get everything covered, and then there is kind of another level up is our mat number 3. So this is where you run it for 7 feet 6 inches, then remove the mesh without removing the wire or cutting the wire, but you're just removing the mesh. By doing that, you're eventually getting a free form heating element that you transition around that fixture here and continue going up for another 8 feet, making your U-turn, another 4 feet, and you get your area covered. So again, this I would say not your easiest layout because you have some free forms, you have some turns. If it's a more simple layout where mats can be used just in its full length without cutting and turning, this whole installation could be even easier. So again, that's our SmartPlan. As long as you send us a simple sketch or plan, anything that would have dimensions and the shape of the area, our design team will prepare that for you. That helps eventually with installation, helps to select the proper materials and ensure that the project is going the right way. So when the plan is done, then eventually sooner or later, it's going to get to the installation day, and that's when you want to make sure you have an electrician who's going to be doing all the testing. The simple and easy way to say it would be always do the testing before and after every major part of the installation or every major step of the installation. So, you receive the product, you want to make sure it's tested. You started preparing that for a kind of dry layout just to see how all fits. Make sure you test it. In other words, you want to make sure you're constantly testing the system. So if someone by mistake damages something or hits something with a shovel, you know when that happens, so you still have quick and direct access to this heating mat or heating cable. So testing is important with a digital multimeter and with the mega ohmmeter, and you will have a product label to compare those numbers, and you will have the warranty card to write down your testing results and all of the recordings there. So on that testing note, we're going to jump back to the cross section, and I will hand it over to Lynn back.
Yeah, this is a really great picture. I really love the cross section here where you can really see exactly every step of that installation. So it's sort of what we showed you earlier, just from a different perspective. You're looking at, again, that 4 to 8 inches of crushed aggregate. Obviously, this can change depending on the project that you're working on. So put down whatever aggregate you really need for that space. And then you'll start with that base layer of 1.5 to 2 inches. It can even go up to 3 inches of asphalt, your snow melting system, that the mesh that we showed earlier, and then that 2 to 3 inches of finished asphalt over the top of it. So make sure that that aggregate, that gravel layer, is spread evenly. You want to make sure it's a very even, good foundation for that asphalt layer to go over. And the gravel should be between 4 to 8 inches thick, but it can be up to a foot thick with high traffic areas. And you can actually see here how they're doing these asphalt layers, how it's being installed. Again, that base layer should be at least 2 inches thick to give it a really good footing. The top layer should be no thicker than 2 inches generally is the recommendation to allow for that heat to transfer properly, but make sure that it is at least 1.5 inches thick. It's really important with asphalt to note that you do not want to ever use a paving machine for that top layer. It can damage the heating elements, so make sure that you're using a shovel, you're hand shoveling that asphalt and using a rolling machine instead of that paving machine, and that's pictured here. And a handy tip that we always like to give you is if you are using those shovels, cover the edges of them in duct tape so that there aren't any sharp edges that could damage or destroy any of that heating wire underneath.
Thank you, Lynn. And yes, those are really, really important and great tips because, the last thing you want to do is after you went through all of the steps, kind of damage the heating mat at that final application of the final layer of asphalt. And the same thing again with the paving machine. If it's a larger area, the contractor may want to use the machine, but again, it's just simply not doable. You cannot just start driving over the heating mats with the machine. So definitely don't do that. And we had a question from Charlotte ahead of time. The question was, how long does the process for installation usually take? And are there any steps to prepare before the demolition or installation smoother? So really each installation is different. There's really no set number of days or kind of number of days based on the size. So in general, you want to make sure that the old surface is removed. And that's typically would be a good day depending again on the size of the installation. So all surface should be removed. Proper layers of gravel should be in place for a couple of days before the actual installation day. The reason you want to have that early on is because that will allow your electrician to get in and prepare his conduit work. So just like we were showing here in the SmartPlan, all of those mats are lining up here at the lower part of the plan. So the junction box is here and another junction box is on the left. So again, each project will be different, but that kind of step, that moment will help electrician to get everything set up and ensure that he is ready for the heating mat installation and then routing the leads. And then eventually electrician will need to be there for at least 2 days, one for that preparation and one for the installation day to get everything tested and then do the final wiring. So again, great question. Unfortunately, there is no just simple straight answer to that because again, each application, each project will be slightly different. And since I'm on the roll here answering the question, I'm going to quickly answer the question from Keon about availability to download the presentation later. So it looks like Olivia already responded here in our answering portal, but yeah, we can definitely make the slide available and just follow up with the email for you and get those sent out. So yes, that's definitely not a problem here. So let me jump back into my next slide. So snow melting mats. Of course, like we were talking earlier, snow melting mats needs to be installed according to the SmartPlan. Eventually, this is what our designers spent extra time making sure that that layout is correct, that you got the proper sizing of the mats, and that everything will fit perfectly. So definitely don't try to just start laying the mats kind of in the way or shape you want, because that may just create problems further down the line when there might be some extra matting because not all the previous areas were covered correctly. So following the SmartPlan is a key, and as you can see on this photo, for example, the installers are actually using that longer 40-foot mat and they just cutting the mesh in half. So you can see they kind of holding that 20-foot strip that would go one direction, then it's going to make a U-turn and head back the other direction to cover that particular segment of the area. So of course, again, as soon as that heating mat is laid down in place, that's a great time to get an extra testing, ensure that nothing was cut, that nothing was damaged, and eventually route the cold lead into that box that is shown down below. So while we talking about the junction box, I'm going to, of course, jump into my next slide that shows that a little bit in detail here. So eventually you can see now we're kind of jumping a little bit ahead maybe with the picture because everything is now covered and all of the leads are ending up in this junction box. So this is where electrician will eventually get these leads extended and run with his own wire all the way to that indoor location where the power source would be. So this again, this is very important to make sure that this part of the whole project is planned right, because you don't want to have multiple junction boxes or sort of junction boxes on different side of the areas. You want to try to minimize that and kind of get that kind of centralized spot where you can run as maximum number of leads as you can. So after we talking about the junction box, we switching to the controls.
Right, so this project used our premium snow and ice control that comes with a snow melting aerial sensor. So that means that it can be all automated. It's going to turn on when the aerial sensor detects that the temperature is below a set point, usually between 38 and 40 degrees, and that there's any kind of precipitation like snow or ice coming down. And then once it detects that there is no more, that it has stopped snowing, or the temperature has gotten over a certain temperature, it will turn itself off. But first, it does have a hold on feature, or an after run time, as we call it, to help continue with that melting. So even once the snow has stopped, you don't want to let the system just turn off completely. Obviously, all that snow is going to turn into water, and that water needs to go someplace. If it doesn't evaporate, it's going to refreeze and basically give you a free ice rink in your driveway. So make sure that you are setting that after run time, or that hold on time, to continue melting after the snowfall has actually stopped falling. That
Thank
aerial
you. Oh yeah, go ahead, Lynn.
The aerial sensor detects that falling or blowing snow. So if there is anything coming down or going around, it's going to turn itself on.
Thank you, Lynn, and sorry I interrupted you. The way you answered that slide is actually you answered additional questions that we had from Chip. His question was, how is this controlled, and is it a thermostat? So as you just heard from Lynn's description, again, it's not a thermostat. It's a specific snow melt controller that utilizes additional snow sensor. Because first of all, you don't want to control the system just by a temperature. You don't want to like maintain some temperature like your floor heat, or trigger the system based on the outdoor temperature. This is why you have those two main triggers. You want to have a snowfall, and you want to have a temperature below 38. These two things triggering the system, and everything is running. And again, this is industry proven for residential, commercial, industrial applications, and that's again what makes the system safe to operate exactly when it's needed, and eventually make it the most effective. So I'm going to jump onto the slide number 16 here that talks about the diagram. It really shows the diagram, and we like to call it a typical wiring diagram, because we don't show kind of exact wire for wire what needs to be connected to what terminals and what colors are used and all that. But what we really want to show here is what components you typically have, how do these components kind of interact and connect with each other, and what goes where in terms of inside or outside. So I like to kind of start from our sensors. So, and in this case, I'm just going to talk about the aerial mounted sensor. This is the one that detects the precipitation and the temperature. So as soon as the temperature drops below 38 degrees and it's snowing, or maybe it's some wet snow or any precipitation, it triggers, it sends the signal to the controller. Controller eventually sends the signal to the relay panel, and the relay panel closes the contacts and send that power through the junction box to your heating mats. So this is kind of your simple chain. Eventually, the sensor triggers the controller triggers the relay, and the power is being sent out. Of course, you have your breaker panel. This is what eventually gives power to your controller. It's what gives power to your relay panel and the mats, so everything is running. And as you can see on the inside part, you have one extra component, which is actually an optional remote control override. So this is what you can typically mount maybe in your hallway or any area that you kind of have quick and easy access to, and maybe kind of good view on the outside of the area that is supposed to be melting. So if you see there's some specific conditions where you would like maybe to manually override the system, you can do that from this controller. And for this particular premium type controller, there is also a high temperature limit sensor that just sits in the asphalt between the heating cables, detecting that average temperature and ensuring that the system is not running too hot. That helps to kind of protect your asphalt, and it also helps to ensure that the system is running efficiently. And again, of course, inside is your relay panel and the controller. Outside going to be the sensors, junction boxes, and of course, heating mats. And that should hopefully answer the question for Jim, who sent us the question early on about seeing how the wiring is done. So, Jim, we hope that's a good explanation. And if you have any additional questions, just feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be glad to get your particular scenario covered. And we're going to head back to Lynn to finish up that project here.
Yeah, so as you can see, this is the finished project. Obviously, this is in the summertime or the springtime, so there's no snow on it yet, but this is also what it will look like in the winter once that snow has fallen. It's going to be completely clean and dry, and you can see this and a lot of other project showcases on our project showcase page on our website, which is WarmlyYours.com, and we'll also have a video of the full installation.
Yeah, we're just going to run the video. It's a pretty quick video that just really covers overall application with just quick text boxes giving you idea of what's happening where. So again, we're just going to run it. Feel free to send the questions after you watch it right away. That way we can quickly recap any particular moment of it. And again, it's just about 2 minutes, so you guys should be able to watch it now. So eventually you can see, I'm just going to give some quick comments here. Eventually you can see that the asphalt is just being spread out sort of manually without any heavy machines used or driven over the heating mats. And eventually when that second layer is done, that's when you run the rolling machine. So that's a nice close-up view of the junction box. So that's where all those leads ended up and get inside for the relay panel. And that concludes the video. And we apologize, guys. It sounds like the video was a bit choppy on probably your end. So we're going to try to improve that to ensure that all works and looks better if we would like to use the videos on any of our next presentations here. And I believe I had a question here. Let me see. We had an additional question from Chip about the typical lifespan. So, good question. The typical lifespan of the system is really the same or even longer than the driveway itself. Because as long as it's installed right, tested, and it was not damaged during the installation, and it's fully encapsulated where there's nothing is shifting, your structure, your base is not moving around, again, it's typically going to just outlast the driveway. So by the time, 10, 15, whatever the lifespan of the driveway is, it's going to be time to replace the driveway. Your system should be just still in a great shape, but most likely will need to be at this point removed if you're planning kind of the whole overhaul of your driveway. So again, it's really, really great lifespan that usually just outlasts the driveway. And another question from Chip again. I like these questions here from Chip. 5 years down the road, cracked driveway, compromised wire. Is it repairable? The answer is yes, it's definitely repairable. We actually have the tools even to locate where that problem is. Let's just say if there is some cracks, but we don't know where that damage is or where the wire was compromised. We do have the tools like a troubleshooting kit with a thermal camera that can be used to pretty much visually detect where that hot spot is and then eventually get only the right spot opened, get the wire repaired. We have the videos, we have the instruction that shows how to do that, and eventually get this all fixed and get the system up and running again. And since I'm on the roll again, this is the hat trick question. How much weight can the system hold without being damaged? And that's from Justin. And I would say if the question is probably about how much the whole asphalt, the driveway itself can hold, that would all depend on the proper the proper cross section of the asphalt. So it's really up to the paving contractors what amounts they used and what amount of weight that particular driveway can hold. Because again, as long as our system is inside and it's not compromised by any cracking or shifting or the base giving up, our system will hold as much as that driveway will hold. So hopefully that answers the questions from Justin. So again, if you're planning that there's going to be some heavy machinery, some heavy traffic there, you always want to make sure that eventually you get this all planned accordingly with your paving professional so they can prepare the proper base, the proper asphalt layers to get all this weight handled correctly. And let's just jump back with Lynn to talk about the project cost breakdown.
Yeah, so as you can see, we're breaking this down by the heating element, the controls, and the accessories that went into this project. So the heating element, that's the actual mats themselves, and again, you can kind of see what that MSRP is for those. The controls are there as well, and all those extra accessories, including the snow melting plaque, which is something that we always recommend. It's just a small bronze plaque that goes into the pavement so that if any work is done on the system in the future, whoever is working on it knows, or on the driveway in the future, whoever is working on it knows that there is a electrical system down there and to be extra careful. So that total cost for that project is $6,951.
Great, and I think I'm going to hand and talk over the tips for asphalt with snow melt, because I know Lynn already gave you some great tips about protecting all the tools and kind of protecting the heating mat. So now it's my turn. So make sure you have a mega ohm meter to properly test the heating elements. Make sure, in other words, that the electrician not only using his regular digital multimeter, but he's also using the mega ohm meter and testing the insulation resistance at 500 volts. Again, if your electrician have any questions regarding the tools or testing, he can definitely reach out to us, and all the testing is outlined in the installation manual. I know Lynn already mentioned that. I still need to repeat it. Use the duct tape on the edge of the shovels. You really don't want to kind of be 80% into that project and then somebody just kind of hit and nick the cable with the sharp shovels. And eventually, do not walk on or bend the factory splices. The factory splice is your part where that green heating element kind of connects to the cold lead. So in other words, it's a manufactured connection between your heating element and a cold lead. and it has additional layer of like a heat shrink to get this extra protection, but you don't want to start kind of bending that and fitting that into any particular tight spaces, because that's where you can eventually compromise that connection, damage, and again, you will be slowly heading into that repair of the mat that is not installed yet. So just take an extra careful steps here with the factory splice, and of course, just throughout the whole wire. You want to minimize traffic on it. You want to minimize dropping anything on it or bending that or just kind of smashing that between two sharp surfaces or something. And while we're heading in our any questions slide, that's definitely your best time to start sending the questions to us. And it looks like I have a question already from Rob, so I'm probably going to start with this. The question is, besides asphalt, what other paving materials have you worked with? Due to my local grade, I'm interested in material that is permeable to water flow. Rob, this is a great question because I was actually just on the way to answer that. So permeable paver installation is eventually becoming popular. I don't want to say it's new, but it's something that is new to electric snow melting industry, and it's new to the industry. And we have one example that we see outlined in the Hardscape magazine, and this is where the project was done. And I'm just pretty much going to kind of quote how that project was done there, and it works well. It's something that was working and installed just right. So they started with eventually all the base that is needed there. Then there was 4 inches of number 57 stone, then another 2 inches of number 9 stone that was serving as the paver setting bed. The heating cable eventually was installed within that number 9 stone layer. That really maximizes the amount of heat transferred from a heating cable to the pavers. Because you see, anytime we're talking about the heating systems, we want to make sure there's no air gaps, and we want to make sure we transfer as much heat as possible from that heating element through all of the surface up into the top surface. So we definitely don't want to use something that's going to have lots of air gap, because that's just not going to transfer heat. So again, we're trying to maximize the amount of heat. The stone that's separating the cable and pavers needs as much contact with both as possible. Then crushed stone with fines transfers the most heat, just like we were talking, but doesn't drain. So it is not used in a permeable installation a lot. So instead, smaller drainage stone number 9, the one we mentioned below, the 2 inches of that is used because it has more contact with the cable and transfers more heat than the large stone. So again, this is just one example, Rob. There's probably 10 different ways how the system can be installed. In the end of the day, all we really want is that the system, the heating mat, has a minimum of 2 inches of non-combustible medium below it and a minimum of 1.5 inches on top of it. And again, this medium of the thickness of that non-combustible material, you want to make sure it's not just something like a loose gravel with lots of air gaps, because first of all, it doesn't embed your cable correctly, and secondly, it just doesn't transfer the heat well because you have tons of air gaps. So hopefully that answers your question. Like I said, that's something that is just coming slowly into the industry, into this type of installation. So if you have if you have the project that you're planning on, definitely reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to just schedule a quick meeting, go in depth with your particular installation, ensure that the layers you're using are correct, so that in the end of the day, your system will perform the way it's designed to perform. And okay, back to questions here. So we had a question from Jerry ahead of time that I'll probably have Lynn answer. The question was can we do the parking lots warming for ice and snow?
Yes, and the answer is yes, it's absolutely doable. However, depending on the size of that parking lot, usually they're pretty large, so it will require a significant amount of electricity. So if you're looking at doing a very, very large project like that, be sure to reach out to us so that we can help you. Again, like Anatoly said, we're happy to schedule a meeting with you, with any contractors you have, to make sure that you do have the power that would be required, and to get any, additional details on that project to make sure that you're going to be completely informed going into it.
Yeah, for sure. Just again, always keep an eye on the electrical amps, electrical requirements in general. This is again where we provide that with every quote, and we can easily just work with different options to reduce the coverage or just alternate that and do something different to match your electrical availability. So why don't you tell us about our next webinar, Lynn?
Yes, so our next webinar is in May. It is May 13th, again at 1 o'clock Central, and it is adding luxury to any home with luxury vinyl tile and floor heating. So if you're interested in working with LVT and floor heating, be sure to come join us for that. And we do offer daily trainings as well here at WarmlyYours, also here on Crowdcast. They're also aired on Facebook Live as well. These are usually pretty quick, between 10-15 minute long trainings on different topics each day. And generally we have at least one a day. Often we have two a day. And it's often hosted by me or by Anatoly. So if you want to learn a little bit more or just pop in and get some questions answered, feel free to join us there.
And services at WarmlyYours. So we are proud to offer several smart services. So Smart Fit, that's your simplest one, of course, measuring service. So for floor heating, snow melting, and underlayment, we can provide that service to ensure that everything is measured the right way, that we can create a proper plan and get your project going. Smart Guide, that's our remote or on-site installation support for most radiant heating products. Then actual Smart Install, that's the installation service for floor heating and snow melting projects. And Smart Fix, that's your troubleshooting service for floor heating and snow melting. So just like we had a previous question about, potential some cracking going on the driveway and the wire needs to be repaired, that's the service you would want to go for. And our monthly promotion for the month of April is 20% off on Environ Easy Mats. And I'm just going to quickly jump to share what the Environ Easy Mats are. That's your larger rectangular mats that just being installed in between the padding or underlayment and the final floating flooring like carpet, laminate, or floating wood. So the installation is very simple and easy. You lay down your padding, you lay down your Environ Easy Mat. It doesn't need to be embedded in thinset or anything like that. And then you just float or stretch your carpet over it or laminate, and the project is done. So very quick, simple, and easy to install. And again, in the month of April, it's at 20% off. And yeah, Lynn, why don't you take this slide and the next, and then we're going to be closed, but you guys still can send us the questions. So please don't hesitate and send the questions to us while we are still live.
Absolutely. So if you have any feedback, we would love to hear about it. You'll get an email shortly after this ends, just asking about your experience during the webinar. So please give us any comments, any suggestions, especially suggestions on topics you'd like to hear about. We always want to make sure we're giving you information that you want. So feel free to send in any feedback you have. And of course, you're always free to reach out to us however works best for you. You can give us a call or text us at that 800 number. You can email us either our general email info@warmlyyours.com, or reach out directly to our owner and president Julia at jbillen@warmlyyours.com, or you can visit our website or Facebook page for more information, all of our live daily training videos, and just anything else pretty much you could ever want to know about Warmly Yours, you'll find there.
For sure, yeah, we have just lots of great design ideas. Contact all the updates about our promotions on all the major social media platforms. And it appears that we don't have any additional questions, which is great. I love that we have some great live questions during the webinar. So hopefully, again, those are answered and you guys are going to get the follow-up. Feel free to just, follow up back with us if there is some particular question you want to kind of have more details, more answers about, and we will be in touch with you. So until the next time, stay warm
and be radiant.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.